Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my Lego Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. It's a modification of the recent set. Modification is a light way of putting it. I pretty much completely reworked the whole thing, but I'll get into that in just a minute. But before we get started, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has watched my recent video on my Star Destroyer bridge and commented and subscribed and liked it. It really means a lot, and I just appreciate it so much. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's done that. It really does mean a lot. Yeah, it means a lot. So I just wanted to thank everyone. Now, getting to the Star Destroyer, before I dive into all the details, I wanted to give a shout out to Indoril Arminger on Rebreakable. I hope I'm not butchering the pronunciation of that, but I did kind of use his whole panel design and how they attach, at least on the bottom. I changed up how they attach on the top, but I did want to give credit because it's loosely based off of that, but everything has been completely changed, aside from just the way that stuff is attached and the basic structure. But yeah, like I said, this is based on the recent Lego set. The frame is pretty much the same as the recent Lego set, but everything else is completely different. It's significantly larger and the proportions are much more accurate, and it has a lot more detail. That's really what I was focusing on, making it a lot more accurate and detailed compared to the real thing. And I'm really proud of how it's turned out. I've spent a ton of time just perfecting it as best as possible, little by little, and I'm just really proud and happy of the overall result. So without further ado, let's get into the details. Like I said, it's significantly larger than the original set. I would guess that it has probably like 3,500 pieces, where the original set had just a little over 1,500. It's a loose guess, I really have no idea, but there's a ton of tiny pieces in it, and just way more parts overall, adding detail and just completing the whole model a lot more. So the whole panels have been significantly made bigger, and it also has complete paneling on the bottom so that it gets the proper shape where the panels just go all the way down and meet up, rather than the flat bottom like the Lego set has. The Lego set is it's a great play set, and obviously if they released this as a set, it'd be like $350 or something. So the Lego set's great, but I just wanted something that fit what I wanted more. And yeah, more of a display model for sure. It does still have the interior. It's a little harder to access. It just takes a little longer to open up the panels and take them apart. But I'm really not using the interior because I have my Star Destroyer bridge mock, so I kind of just imagine that bridge is the bridge of this Star Destroyer, which would be right up in there. And one more thing, giving credit again to Indoril Arminger. I made this specifically the Chimaera, which is Thrawn's flagship, and so it needed to have the Chimaera symbol on the underside. And again, Indoril Arminger on Rebreakable. I'll leave a link to his Rebreakable in the description below, so check that out if you're interested. Big shout out to him. But yeah, I used his instructions for the Chimaera symbol on the underside, and I'll show that in more detail in just a little bit. But yeah, I made the superstructure a lot larger to match with the larger size of the main body. And overall, I added a lot more tiling and really smoothed it out a lot more, just because I really prefer the tiled look over a bunch of studs. I don't mind studs, but I just don't like there to be too many of them, and so I really wanted to cut down on how many studs around the overall model. And yeah, so the superstructure is a lot larger, it's wider, it's longer, the proportions of it are better, and there's significantly more detail, a lot of greebling in between the different layers of it. And that was really fun to do. Small details are my favorite thing to build, so I just had a lot of fun using different pieces to add detail. And I think it turned out pretty great. Yeah, I've been so excited to show this to you guys. I just haven't gotten around to it. I've been busy. So sorry if the video took a little longer to come out than I would have liked. And I'm sure it'll take a little longer for me to edit it from when I'm filming this, but you know, that's for future me to take care of. But yeah, the greebling was really important to me to get. And another thing to mention is that there are some illegal building techniques used, so don't report me to the LEGO police, please. But I just really liked the way some of those things worked out and the way they look, and they are illegal, some of them. Like, there's some pieces that are kind of wedged in and not really fully attached, and a few things that are like partially attached, but I like the way it looks, and I think that's the important thing. And again, it's a display model and not meant to be a play set like the original LEGO set was. So I'm okay with having those more fragile and a little sketchier techniques. But still, the thing is pretty strong overall. Relatively, like the main body's alright. You can pick it up and move it around, and I did still retain the handle because it's a pretty awesome feature. It's just a little more hidden away. Before, there were kind of these open hinges that had to be there to allow the handle to pop out, but I wanted it to be more hidden away, and so that you couldn't tell it was there at all. But yeah, to access the handle, instead of just opening up the main hinges like before, you just slide these two little tiles out of the way, open up these hinges and then these, and then you can get to the handle, no problem. It just takes a few more seconds longer, but I thought it was such a useful feature, and it's really nice to have just a super strong way of carrying it around, no problem. It's definitely a lot heavier than the original set, so it's still really great to have that handle available. Now, moving around to the back, the engines are made significantly larger using some big wheel pieces. And as you can see, like I was mentioning earlier, the shape of the hole is much more accurate, where it comes down and meets at a point rather than having the kind of flat bottom that's cut off on the official set. Yeah, the flat bottom makes sense for a playset because you can just easily set it down and you don't have to worry about that. But this one with the stand that's kind of built in and focusing more on accuracy, like the real ship, I wanted to have it with the proper shaping where it comes together and meets up at a point all the way along the whole bottom of it. And yeah, all around the back side of it, around the engines, there's more detail and greebling that I added, and just really covering things up a lot more so there's no gaps, and it all just looks finished and complete like I wanted it to. And again, I'm really happy with how that turned out. There was a little bit of work that I had to put in to move where the engines are around to get to be in the proper spot versus before. And yeah, the engines are much larger, and I think that looks great. Coming back around, we have the bridge, which is completely changed. I completely rebuilt it, and I focused a lot on adding more detail like I did with the rest of it, and also getting the proper shaping. The original bridge was pretty good shaped, but I made it just a little bit slimmer and a little bit narrower, just a tiny bit. And like I mentioned, there are some illegal techniques used here where things aren't fully attached, and there's a couple things that are just kind of wedged in place, or a piece isn't pushed down all the way. I like the way it looks, and I think that's what's important because it makes me happy and I like looking at it. I don't really care if it's using illegal techniques. And another important thing was also getting the angle of the bridge so that it's angled forward just a little bit to match the angle of the superstructure, which is also accurate to the actual in-universe Star Destroyer. Yeah, the proper proportions were really, really important to me because I love the Star Destroyer. It's just such a cool, menacing, iconic design. The big gray triangle pizza slice, but it may be that. It may be a big gray triangle pizza slice, but I think it's just so cool and menacing, and it'll always be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, capital ships, just because of how menacing and iconic and just powerful it is. And yeah, I think the proper proportions really help show that off, because with the original Lego set, the superstructure was really kind of oversized compared to the rest of the body. So it just didn't look quite right as far as maximum accuracy goes. So yeah, it's widened with some of these layers just coming out further. And like I said, a lot of greebling in there using different techniques. I sized down the turbo laser significantly. Originally there was like a mechanism that you could pull and slide and all the turbo lasers would rotate together. Obviously it doesn't have that, and I'm just using binocular pieces to represent the octuple barbettes. I'm saying turbo lasers, but really on Thrawn's ship, which is a modified Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. His ship has the octuple barbettes here, which are found primarily on the Imperial-2. But his is an Imperial-1 that's modified and updated, so it has those octuple barbettes, as well as a few other things. But the Chimaera does retain the tractor beam targeting array up here inside of the communications tower that's found on the Imperial-2 class Star Destroyer. So I made sure to capture that. And yeah, a lot of tiling. Really wanted to get a sleek, smooth look overall and try and fill in any gaps as best as possible. So like around here where there were gaps before, I tried to fill in. And there's a lot of greebling going around the back. Sadie is barking. Sorry about that. Hopefully she will quiet down. Sadie was being a troublemaker, so I had to go get her to quiet her down. Say hi, Sadie. She'll be featuring in the video, I guess. Yeah, back to the Star Destroyer. Sadie's not too impressed with it, I guess, but another really key thing that I wanted to capture was the kind of trench, the strip of greebling that runs down between the top and bottom panels of the Star Destroyer. So I had to kind of change up the attachment of these top panels. Before there were hinges that were along the side and you could just hinge open the panels. Now they're attached further in and you have to just pull them off to get inside, but it's still pretty easy and quick to do, just a little more time consuming and complex than the original set was. but I think it's definitely worth it for what I wanted, because you get that that strip of texture and greebling, which I think is really important to the overall look of the ISD. And again, with the tiling, it's all much more smooth and sleek. And I also focused on getting these kind of raised sections. I wanted to get those all in the right place and properly shaped and proportioned to the rest of the ship. I spent a lot of time looking at pictures of the Star Destroyer, really just focusing on all the details that I could do my best to capture. Another little thing that I'm pretty happy with is just getting this little small extension here. It's attached with a bar going inside, and I use another flex tube here to fill in the gap just a little bit and to capture that bit, because I think it's another important feature. And yeah, I extended this part of the superstructure and changed up the shaping. Like I mentioned, the overall structure, at least the main like frame and the kind of techniques used on the superstructure as well, are mostly the same as the original set, but kind of everything on top of that, all the details and really what you see has been completely reworked and changed with a greater focus on accuracy and detail, and just getting everything to look as close to the real Star Destroyer as I could within my ability and the parts that I had. And yeah, like I said earlier, I'm really proud of how it turned out. I've just been working on it for, I don't know, a month now maybe, just refining it a little bit at a time. I'll do some work on it, some big changes maybe, and then it'll be kind of complete for a minute, and then the next day I'll come back and see a little thing that I can improve, and I'll change that up. And the process just continues. Most of my builds are like, they're never fully done. Like with my Imperial base, I'm always adding something or tweaking something just to make it as good as I can to the best of my abilities. Yeah, and I think it all came together really nicely. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, looking at it from the underside, you can see the Chimaera logo. It's not too sketchy holding it up like this, but again, credit to Endoro Arminger on Rebrickable for the design of that Chimaera logo. He has some really great instructions on there, and again, I'll link that in the description below. I think it looks really cool, and again, I focused on smoothing out things just a little bit. I didn't have quite enough tiles to get it as smooth as I would like. I focused more on the top because that's primarily what you see, but I also added the hanger bay because that wasn't there. I approximated as best as I could half of the reactor bulb that protrudes here, but that's where the stand goes, so I'm not able to get the full thing because the stand's pretty important. And again, like I did on the top, I have these kind of raised little bits, which I focused, which I wanted to get all in the right places. Seeing the Chimaera logo on the underside is pretty cool, I think. I'm a big fan of Thrawn, and so I wanted to make his specific ship, and his is unique in regards to having that symbol on the bottom. But yeah, that's my Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. It's difficult to say whether, it's not a full-on mock from the ground up, but it's pretty far from the original set. Like I mentioned, it I would guess it has around 3,500 pieces, because there's so many tiny little pieces that are in all this greeveling that runs down the side, and the superstructure. And if you look at the bridge, it's just a bunch of tiny pieces to get detail. And yeah, it's come a long way from the original set, I think. And I was really excited to show this to you guys because of how proud I am of all the work I did on it. Sorry, I just knocked something out of alignment there when I was turning it upside down, but got it back in place. But yeah, I'm really proud of all the work I've put into it. Spent hours and hours and hours working on this thing, and a bunch of parts. But the Star Destroyer is just such a cool and iconic ship, and I really love it, so I wanted to capture it as best as possible in Lego form. I'm sure there's people out there, and I've seen incredible mocks that are way better than I could ever imagine doing, but within my ability and the parts I had, I'm super content and happy with this. I'm sure I'll do a few more tweaks in the future, but overall, I can't think of a whole lot I would want to do. It's about as perfect as I could ask for within my abilities. So I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing it. I think it goes along pretty nicely with my Star Destroyer bridge mock that I showed you in my last video. And I have done a lot of updates on that. I expanded the bridge significantly, so I can make an update video on that in the future if anyone's interested. I'll probably do that at some point. And like I said in the last video, I do want to continue making videos at a more regular schedule. So hopefully I'll get another one out within the next couple weeks. I do have my Imperial base to show, which is right there dominating my room. My room's a mess, and Imperial base takes up like most of the floor space. I did make a video on that, I don't know, a year or two ago, but it's come so far. That's my main project that I'm kind of always working on, but it's at a complete state at the moment, and so I could make a video on that. I probably have to split it into a couple parts because it's so big and I want to show everything in detail. But if you guys are interested, let me know. I can make that video at some point. I'd really like to share it with you guys because that's like my pride and joy. I put so much time and money and effort into it, and so I'd really like to share it with you guys. This is my Imperial-Class Star Destroyer, the Chimaera. Yeah, I think it's awesome. The original Lego set was great, but this more suits what I wanted, and it's just so rewarding seeing a custom mock or modification like this come together, knowing that like you created this, and it's just really rewarding. So I always recommend customizing Lego sets or making mocks to people because it's just so satisfying and rewarding to be creative. I don't know, a lot of people doubt that they can do it, but you know, it doesn't matter how it turns out. The important thing is that you have fun, and you get to make something that's your own and is unique and has your own special touches and stuff, and I just think that's really cool and special. And that's the thing I love most about Legos, is that you can do whatever you want with them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, if you stuck around this long. Thank you again so much to everyone who watched the last video and commented and subscribed and liked it. It, like I said earlier, it really means a lot. Seeing like people's comments just really makes me smile, and like seeing someone in the comments who commented on some of my older videos from a year or two ago, seeing the same person pop back up in my last video, it was really, and seeing them like excited about the video was really a special thing, and it's, yeah, it's a really cool thing to see. So I just want to say thank you so much, love you guys. Yeah, stick around for more videos, hopefully soon. Hold me to that. I will try my best. But yeah, it's my Imperial-Class Star Destroyer. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Hallie, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.